Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. If you'll please stand, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thursday at 3:30.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
That's why I got my leg on it. Some seat on it. Scary. That's awesome. It gives much of the transparency of the city.
Yes. Judge Kirkpatrick's heat is broken. Mayor. Susan said number 3. I've been sweating kittens.
Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you. First order of business, reading and approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting dated February 13th, 2024.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
You have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of February 13th, 2024. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by the like sign. Motion carries. Number 3, I've just been informed, is not ready to present, and that was those were the minutes from the workshop during which Sam Rich was in, and we talked about the potential property swap with the West Virginia Veterans Administration and a piece of property the city owns in Pinecrest. But Susan wasn't able to have those final minutes approved, so we'll catch that the next time around. Next we have, where is James? There he is. Come on up, James. This is James Phillips. He's a CEO of a great sister organization to Fruits of Labor, Seed Sowers. And you have in front of you a brief summary of his presentation. But what he's going to talk to us about this evening is very exciting. It's a chance for this council to once again put the city of Beckley on the map by becoming the first city in the United States and joining about 25 other cities in Europe to become a inclusive city of it's IRC, right? It's an inclusive recovery city. We'll be certainly the only one in the state and the only one in the nation. So with that, James, we'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, and members of the community in attendance, I want to thank you for giving me a few moments of your time to talk about something that I think is really powerful and exciting that is coming to the city of Beckley. As many of you may not know me, my name is Jay Phillips. I'm the executive director of Seed Sower, Inc. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that specializes in addiction recovery, housing, transportation, and recovery support services. I'm here tonight to present this exciting news, but I figure it's probably a good idea to kind of set the stage of why this is happening, to talk a little bit about where we were and where we are, and then we'll talk about where we're headed. I don't need to explain to anyone in the room how complicated and complex addiction affects our state. We lead the nation in many mortality statistics related to substance use disorder, including the highest age-adjusted mortality rate in the United States. Last year at 90 persons per 100,000, which is almost twice the next state. We don't have to spend a lot of time talking about how terrible the problem is. I'd instead like to kind of focus on solutions. The history of our approach to substance use disorder nationally and within the state of West Virginia has been, not intentionally, but it's been misguided for a number of years. When we don't necessarily understand the nature of something, we tend to isolate it and other it, and sometimes it causes us to create a response to that situation that is less than profitable or less than conducive to healing. And that's true throughout human history. It's known as stigma. When we don't understand something, when we have an imperfect understanding of something, we tend to create responses to it that are often uninformed or misguided. And that's all the way back through human history, through how we treated mental health as late as the Middle Ages. We were isolating and caging people with mental health conditions, thinking that they were either evil or broken or primitive. Sometimes either out of ignorance or cruelty, we would torture them in hopes that the torture would make them get better. We now know how ridiculous that is, and we can look back on that and say, wow, that was ridiculous. But back then, they thought they knew what they were talking about. As early, and do I have any left-handed members on the council? So back in 1920, if you had been alive back then in elementary school, they would have taped your arm to the side of your desk because they believed in 1920 the left-handed people were either demonically possessed, primitive, or mentally deficient.
I got a few whacks of the ruler
So-
on my hand. You can see the crooked fingers.
Right.
No.
But that, again, it demonstrates an imperfect understanding of something that we now know that's ridiculous. So for the last 75 years or so, the way we've treated addiction and recovery efforts has been also kind of uninformed, little researched, and often misguided. What we tended to do was either try to arrest our way out of the problem or legislate our way out of the problem by isolating and punishing and threatening connections of the people that were suffering with substance use disorder, because in our misguided belief, we thought that the more uncomfortable we made people, the better decisions they would make, and they would change their ways, because at its essence, we considered substance use disorder to be a character flaw or a failing of moral decision-making or a combination of bad upbringing. We now know conclusively, the evidence behind this is overwhelming, that addiction is not just a series of bad motivations or moral failings. It is an incredibly complex, multidimensional problem that involves a number of things, from adverse childhood experiences, a history of trauma, stigma, discrimination, isolation, abuse, domestic violence. There's a number of mental health challenges that are often co-associated with substance use disorder. And we now know that the solution to that is also not simple. We used to think that we would either isolate them or we'll send them to a treatment center somewhere for 30 days, and then they would fix all that and come back and be normal, and the problem would be solved. We now know that that is also largely ineffective in the long term. It's not to say that rehab is not an important part of the treatment continuum. It is very important, but it's only a small component of a much larger picture of what individual and community recovery looks like. We now know, for example, that in order for someone to achieve what's known as stable recovery, it takes 5 years. In your first year of recovery, the average relapse risk rate is between 60 and 80%. More than half of the people will relapse in their first year. Now, part of that can be explained because of our misguided approach to this problem, where we would send people into a 28 or a 60 or a 90-day program. They would come back. Their social supports and family structure and support systems weren't there to keep them going, so they would relapse. They would enter back into the system. The average addiction career is about 28 years long, with 4 to 8 attempts at recovery before it finally takes root. So in order for a person to achieve stable recovery, lasting remission from substance use disorder, it takes 5 years for that relapse risk rate to drop to 15%, which is the same percentage each of us that maybe have not been addicted to a substance stands at becoming addicted to that substance. And so the seed sower model was built on that body of evidence and on what we refer to as CHIME, as the concept of connectedness, hope, identity, meaning, and empowerment, and creating the environment that is conducive to creating those things within the individual and the family and the community at large, so that lasting recovery can take root. A little bit of background about how we operate. We operate 45 state-certified recovery beds in Raleigh, Fayette, and Greenbrier County. We operate a transportation system that has currently 10 vehicles that provides transportation to marginalized and underserved populations throughout southern West Virginia, but typically Raleigh, Fayette, Greenbrier, Nicholas, Summers, and Wyoming counties. We're hoping to branch that out a little bit further as we grow. We employ 11 peer recovery support specialists. If you don't know what that is, that's someone who is in stable recovery from substance use disorder. They've gone through extensive training and state certification to act as a lived experience mentor to other people in recovery, to kind of lock arms with them and walk through their recovery journey with them. The evidence is very clear. That's a very powerful tool in recovery, so we employ those. 3 of those are employed here at Beckley at our recovery community organization that is on the 3rd floor over there at Neville Street, where we offer recovery support services and transportation to anybody in the region, whether they're in our residences or not. And so to show a little bit about the impact that we've done, I just want to throw a couple of numbers out at you. Since we opened in 2021, we've provided over 9,000 nights of safe drug and alcohol-free housing in our 45 beds. We've driven over 500,000 cumulative miles of transportation, and this is transportation to anything that's a recovery support, mental and medical and behavioral health, dental care, take people to court, take people to get their driver's license back, take people to the Bureau of Vital Statistics for their birth certificate, take them to see their kids, or take them to a supervised visitation with CPS, whatever we can do to create connections and bridge gaps in the recovery community to create those supports that are necessary for long-term recovery. Our transportation service does that. And then this one is particularly powerful to me, and this is something that was the reason behind launching our transportation service. We've now provided a direct pipeline to treatment and detox facilities for over 40 people in Beckley. Almost 40 people, rather, not quite 40. And let me tell you why it's important and what that means. It means that my peers at the RCO, they'll engage people on the streets that are in active addiction. We bring them into the RCO, we feed them a meal, and if they're ready, we coordinate them a treatment bed anywhere in the state. And once they're ready, one of our drivers immediately picks them up and takes them to that treatment center so that they can start their recovery journey. What's powerful about that, because we call it in the recovery space the window of willingness. The window of willingness is very narrow. If they're in the ER or if they're in somewhere like the RCO, if you don't have that assertive linkage to those services immediately, within an hour they're changing their mind or they're leaving because they don't think there's any hope. And so by providing that assertive linkage to those services, we're creating a direct pipeline from the streets of Beckley into a treatment center and hopefully into recovery housing after that for long-term support. We were also the first organization in the state to employ a recovery capital system. I'm not going to drag you poor folks into the weeds. You're going to have to listen to me enough as it is. But essentially, we were the first in the state to employ a really innovative and forward-thinking software platform that guides our recovery planning and mapping. The state is now on board with it, and they're disseminating it down to all recovery operators in the state. But we're now widely considered the expert because we've been doing it for 2 years longer than anybody else. We work closely with a number of partners in the community, including Raleigh County Drug Court, Family Treatment Court, the Day Report Center, Workforce West Virginia, Jobs and Hope, Adult Ed, WVU Tech, the Southern West Virginia Men's Fellowship Home, the Division of Rehabilitative Services, a number of behavioral health care providers, a number of faith-based organizations and other nonprofits, and there's still a number of powerful community organizations we'd like to connect to, but just haven't had the bandwidth or the time to get that going yet. So, and what we do specifically in Beckley, for our residential participants, as you know, one of my primary partners is Workforce West Virginia, Jobs and Hope, and Fruits of Labor. Fruits of Labor provides the vocational training, education, and employment for the residents in seed sower housing that's supported by both Workforce West Virginia and Jobs and Hope. They've been doing that for about 23 years, but of course they opened in August of 22, I believe, here in Beckley. In 2023, our residents in the Fruits of Labor program have had 14 food handler certifications, 14 students completed 26-week culinary program through Workforce Transitional Jobs, 11 students completed 499 hours of station supervisor training, 5 completed a 1,040-hour-long manager training program to station supervisor or floor supervisor. There's been over $440,000 of paid employment in 2023, 7,200 hours of educational training, 30,000 hours of paid training hours, and over 7,000 nourishing meals provided free of charge to our students and our partners. And I say that because Fruits of Labor at its core is not just a cafe, it's a nationally certified culinary and agricultural training center where these folks are provided a pathway to meaningful employment, not just a job that allows them to start paying their fines. And so I relay that to you all for a reason. We call that a recovery ecosystem. When you have multiple community stakeholders engaged to leverage their collective strengths around the recovery efforts in that community. And that work has gone noticed both at the state and national and now international level, specifically in Beckley. I can tell you that 2 months ago at a conference in Dublin, Ireland, there was a big picture of Seed Sower and some other operators that was presented at a conference on behavioral health and substance use disorder recovery as a model to be emulated. Which brings us to tonight. All of this forms what's known as a recovery-oriented system of care, which is all the stakeholders together coming to a table, discussing the specific challenges and obstacles to that community and matching them through asset mapping of the assets of that community, matching them to resources that can meet those challenges. The work we've been doing has now led to Beckley been selected and offered to be the first inclusive recovery city in the United States. In that packet in front of you, you'll see what an inclusive recovery city is. It was started by probably the world's foremost researcher in addiction recovery, Dr. David Best out of Leeds Trinity University in London. He's also the director of the Center for Addiction Recovery Research. He started first publishing research on the Inclusive Recovery City back in 2018. There are now 26 total inclusive recovery cities in Europe, the Balkans, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. And they've asked Beckley to launch the first charter member of the Inclusive Recovery Cities group here in the United States. I can tell you that number 2 is going to be Houston, so I'm kind of happy we can show those Texans what's up. I'm from Louisiana originally, that's where I was born, and so I'm bred to hate Texas, so I'm just going to throw that out there. So what is the Inclusive Recovery City? There's 4 core ideas: to reduce stigma surrounding addiction and recovery, to create pathways to community for people in recovery, contribute to civic society and engagement of vulnerable, marginalized, and underserved populations, and to foster a concept of reciprocal altruism. That phrase, I'd like you to hang on to that reciprocal altruism is a very powerful concept. And what that is when our community friends and neighbors in addiction can see that their community is willing to invest the supports and infrastructure necessary for them to start finding hope and purpose to walk themselves out of addiction, they want to contribute to that community. When they see the community investing and then the community sees their contribution to that community as a viable and powerful member, here's a stat for you. 38% of the general population contributes to the betterment of their communities. Of the addiction community, that number is 79.4%. You're more than twice as likely to contribute to the betterment of a community if you're in remission from a substance use disorder than if you're not. And so this is a wonderful group of folks who need help and support to build the scaffolding on which they can then construct the rest of their life. And that's what the Inclusive Recovery City is all about. The benefits are a stronger community through reduced stigma and discrimination, enhanced recovery pathways with higher retention rates, positive media attention for the region, and collaboration and learning as part of the global group of inclusive recovery cities. We already have, to be an inclusive recovery city, you have to gather together a coalition of stakeholders. And we already have commitments from a number of them. Obviously, SEEDSOR, Workforce West Virginia, Jobs and Hope, Roots of Labor, the New River Gorge Development Authority, Day Report Center, Family Treatment Court, Drug Court, WVU Tech, a couple of churches, although there's still a couple I'm trying to get in touch with, grassroots recovery organizations, and other community partners to form an IRC council. And what will we do as part of that IRC council? 2 things. Number 1, through asset-based mapping, identify all the resources and assets that we have in Beckley that we can bring to bear on recovery. And then match those to specific challenges and obstacles that we can identify within each of those sectors through all of those partners coming together. And then the second thing that we would do is organize and create 4 very visible, positive, community-facing recovery events per year that would be led by that IRC council. We are tentatively planning our charter signing ceremony and launch of the IRC on March 19th at 9:30 a.m. It's going to be held at the WV Auditorium on Neville Street. This has gathered a lot of statewide attention and including some attention in DC. I know that we're going to have representatives from the Substance Use Mental Health Services Administration coming down. We have folks coming from Virginia and Pennsylvania and Texas. I know that federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, Gail Manchin, is going to be there, and a number of other folks from Charleston and some of the agencies we serve. And it would mean a lot to me if members of council would also come and attend to be a part of what I believe is a really powerful and historic milestone for the city of Beckley that I've come to grow and love. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those, or if you have any thoughts or comments to share. That's the end of my presentation at this time, but I do want to thank you and everyone else for your time and your attention.
Jay, thank you. Any member of council have a question or comment for Jay?
What are the initials RCO?
RCO is a recovery community organization. It's a specifically designated term for essentially a recovery community center. The state funded 6 of those across West Virginia in 2022. I think there are 2 that are active. There's us, and then there's one, I think, up in Wheeling. We're the only RCO south of Huntington. Actually, now south of Wheeling, probably. But
Thank you.
What was the time of that meeting? March 19th?
it'll be 9:30, and we'll
9:30.
probably have the charter signing event around 10. And Dr. Best is coming from London. He'll say some remarks. I'm sure Co-Chair Manchin would like to say something, and we'll probably have a few others. Mayor would like him to say a few words. There'll be a lot of good food there, too.
Very good. Any other questions or comments for Jay?
Do you all work with the reentry coordinator from the federal prison?
We work with the REACH
Makes sense.
initiative with Bev Sharp and her group. I don't know that we've made contact locally with that reentry council. I want to say that I was invited to one of their meetings and I couldn't make it. But I will say that I have a passion for reaching it. 60% of my census comes from criminal justice. So I have a passion for trying to penetrate into the jails to start working for recovery planning for these folks prior to their exit,
Yeah.
so that we can make a more seamless transition back into society.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
have you started interfacing with Judge Demlick with Family Treatment Court as well as Drug Court? Because I imagine, especially as you're referencing transportation services, which is very different from the day report system. These are two new court systems we've established in the last 2 years. Have you started coordinating their energy so we don't have overlap and we maybe can pool resources?
Yes, sir. Actually, my RCO director is a member now of the Family Treatment Court and Drug Court teams, and we've offered a number of services for their participants, including recovery coaching and mapping through the RCO.
And then secondarily speaking, I know a lot of folks in our regional jail are actually under Department of Corrections. They're on their bill and they're technically under their custody. And a lot of those individuals can't leave facilities, especially when there are addiction issues, until we work out home plans.
Right.
So if you need any assistance in getting in the right meetings, the most important one for you at this point will probably be with Stephen R. Davis, with that task force that meets Thursdays for purposes of identifying individuals that can't get out of jail because they don't have set home plans.
And that's something we run into quite a bit in our housing side. We have people from Lakin and from SRJ and Tigert Valley that, we're waiting 3 months just for them to get processed to be able to come and take a bed, even though we've accepted them. And that's been a constant source of frustration for them as well as for us.
We're just speaking for local folks because they're still on our county dime.
Yes, sir.
Often, despite the fact that they're DOC custody. And if you all can help arrange home plans, because often, as you know, in these affected communities, their families have had to separate for their own sanities their resources from these affected individuals. So it may be beneficial to try to get on their radar.
Absolutely. We already do that for community members to coordinate beds for them, and I definitely see a pathway where we could go into the jails with our recovery coaches and set that pathway up as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Is that all?
Jay, thank you very
I
much.
appreciate you.
Great presentation. Thank you. We'll see you on the 19th, if not sooner. Next, we have a resolution for extension of the amended New River Transit Authority lease. Mr. Fowle?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Several meetings back, this council approved entering into a lease with the New River Transit Authority. They have come back to us and asked if we could revise the lease to extend the termination date by 6 years, which means the lease would actually terminate on December 31st, 2031, unless renewed at that stage. And so we are recommending that council do that. They wanted it extended in order to have a better chance to obtain some grants, which they will be seeking. If they just had a 2-year lease, it makes it more difficult to obtain a grant to be used on that project. And we're going to do something tonight we don't normally do, but I think we should, and that is conduct a quick public hearing, and I'm going to ask if anybody in the public has any comments they want to make regarding this lease. It's between the City of Beckley and the New River Transit Authority, and it will run until December 31, 2031. I see one. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that I fully support this lease. I also think that we need to put on proof of labor lease back on the agenda to address that issue. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, I close the public hearing. Mayor, I've asked that this resolution be approved by council.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the resolution as presented by Mr. Fowle?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by a like sign, motion carries. Thank you. Next is the first of 2 resolutions regarding the West Virginia Emergency Management Division. Mr. Fowle?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Both of these resolutions deal with grants that have been awarded to the City of Beckley Sanitary Board. These need to be approved here by this body. and this body will authorize the sanitary board to receive these grants. The first grant is in the amount of $848,000, and it is for the project to alleviate the stormwater and flooding issues in the Robert C. Byrd Drive area of the city of Beckley. And this resolution also authorizes Jeremiah Johnson, the general manager of the Beckley Sanitary Board, to be the party to execute any and all documents. And Mayor, I will ask that council approve the resolution as presented.
Very good. Just for a little further information, this Robert C. Byrd stormwater and sanitary sewer improvement is really in that area that floods so frequently in heavy rain at the end of Ewart Avenue. So it's been a long time coming. So I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by a like sign, the motion carries. Mr. Fowle, the next resolution regarding other areas of Beckley, Hartley Avenue, Beckley Little League, and Pinecrest Stormwater.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This resolution also authorizes the sanitary board to accept this grant that they have been awarded from the West Virginia Emergency Management Division. And this grant is in the amount of $1,061,000. And it is for the project, as the mayor stated, it is to help with the alleviation of stormwater and flooding in the Hartley Avenue, Beckley Little League, and Pinecrest area of the city of Beckley. This resolution also authorizes Jeremiah Johnson, the general manager of the Beckley Sanitary Board, to be the party to sign the documents on behalf of the sanitary board, accepting and regulating this grant. Mayor?
Thank you, sir. Again, I think most of you are familiar. We've addressed this issue in this general Hunter, Hartley, Hager, down toward Little League and on the Pinecrest for a number of years.
40 years.
It's a problem that's almost 50 years old now. So Janine's been very involved in trying to keep this moving. So I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by a like sign, that motion carries.
Mayor, I know Ms. Johnson is here. I know she's happy to hear about the funding.
Right. Yeah. It's been a long time coming for all of us. Next resolution for the West Virginia Department of EPA grant for code enforcement.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is a resolution in order for the city to receive a federal grant through the United States Department of the Treasury and the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. This resolution needs to be adopted. It is to provide the city with financial assistance needed and warranted to remove abandoned and dilapidated structures in the city of Beckley. The grant is in the amount of $487,000. And this resolution authorizes the mayor of the city of Beckley to execute any and all documents required to facilitate the terms of this grant. Mayor?
Very good. Thank you, sir. We have with us this evening, as is normal, our Director of Code Enforcement, Donnie Morgan. Donnie, do you have any comments on this grant?
The grant is good until the expiration of it is January 31st, 2025. We submitted an application with 37 structures that ended up coming up to the amount specified that was approved by the DEP. And once we get this approved, we'll be able to start the demolition process. We do have to get approval for all the structures through the West Virginia Historic Preservation Office, which I've already sent one group in. I sent a dozen of them in already for that approval. And then when we get those back, I'll send those in with some other paperwork to the West Virginia DEP, and they give the final go-ahead for the demolitions once we're ready. And hopefully we'll have them down by January 31st.
That's great. That's sizable sum of money there to demolish a bunch of structures that need it. So we have a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Down to old business. And really, I've noticed, as we all have, a number of very worthwhile activities at different churches and schools for Black History Month. And I congratulate everybody, including Councilwoman Bullock, who's been involved and helped arrange a number of these meetings and salutes. So very proud of the city for responding like they have. Anything else from any member of council under old business?
I have something, Mayor.
All right.
I just want to thank Vicki Webb. We went to Charleston last week to the State Historic Preservation Office.
Good.
And it was 9 nominations, and we were number 7. And so now it's in the hands of the National Park Service for Hunter Cemetery. So we're just waiting to hear back from them. But I just want to thank her for going to Charleston with me. She has been a great asset to this community.
She really is. If I'm not mistaken, several years ago, she was actually awarded a key to the city.
Yeah.
Is that right, Vicki, for all the work you've done on your park there on across from Stratton, and certainly for the Welcome Center and all the other great things you do. So arranging the grant for the bicycles. So you are a true asset. And thanks for joining Janine in that trip. Anything else from any member of council under old business?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, I have one more thing about Hartley and Bostic. I didn't know if you all have had an opportunity to look.
I haven't, but I will get to it.
Okay,
first.
okay, thanks.
Sorry.
All right, that's it.
Okay, anything else from any member of council under old business? Anything from any member of council under new business?
Mayor, I just want to acknowledge the passing of longtime owner Larry George. Passed yesterday. He was a wonderful gentleman. His family had George's Fashions, one in Oak Hill and one on Main Street in Beckley for many, many years. And Mr. George passed yesterday at the age of 88. He was a fine man. So.
He was, and my apologies for not mentioning that. I wanted to couple that comment with the passing of John Gorman, who was 96 years old and a long time wonderful attorney here in Beckley, who actually, a little bit of history, he and Connie Higgins, the late Connie Higgins, who was also a lawyer and a CPA, had attended Notre Dame and graduated at the same time. And Connie enticed John Gorman to come to Beckley to form a law firm. It was Higgins and Gorman. And then later, John Gorman joined Jim Sheechley and John Hutchison and who else? One other, who I can't remember right now. It probably was Bob Kiss at Sheetsley and Gorman. So, yeah, we've lost 2 great city benefactors over the years.
Judge, listen to me. You think I'm still at trial?
You're out of order.
Yeah, been with Judge Kirkpatrick all day.
I
at
demand a
trial.
recess.
You referenced the Gorman Sheetsley building, and it's interesting because owning 345 Prince Street, a large part of my time has been spent making sure folks are not occupying the basement of that building. The 2 newspaper buildings are a large and important part of our history. There's new owner to that building, which is very exciting. I just want to congratulate Ben Worley of Edward Jones as he's purchased my neighboring building, and I now have someone that's interested in making both of our structures collectively better looking and what have you. So we've got a lot of things planned, but I just want to congratulate what is not an insignificant investment, an enormous investment from Edward Jones and Ben Worley. I'm so proud to call him a neighbor now at 343 Prince Street. So if anyone gets a chance to swing by and say hello, they have like the most amazing, this real handsome contractor. I don't know about this guy, but I'm telling you, he is moving hell and earth to try to make sure that this building's done. But also, of course, Cody Reedy is doing fantastic work inside of that structure. I get to see him every day busting his tail, so thank you, folks.
A word on Ben Worley. He's one of 3 sons of Cookie and what was her husband's name? Yeah,
External.
he's a mine engineer with a PhD, and they all grew up down in Glen Daniel. And Ben's mother, Cookie, and my wife Barb worked together in the Raleigh General critical care nursery for a number of years. I mean, just great people.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
thanks for bringing that up. Anything else from any member of council under new business? If not, we'll move on to public comments. It looks like we have Mary West for her 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone.
Come here.
Once again, I'm back, and I hope to get some clarity on some things. Now, as you all know, I lost my neighbor last Tuesday morning to a house fire. In a wheelchair, couldn't get out. Now, all the funding and grants that everybody talk about, why can't something be implemented where if families don't have the money to have round-the-clock care for their loved ones, that some money can come into this area and people be notified that they are eligible to get that money to have round-the-clock care. This woman could not get out of the home, and that's a bad way to go. She was in a wheelchair. In 2020, her sister fell and broke her ankle, and on Christmas Day, I watched them carry her body out, living alone. So if we can get some kind of money coming in to give people that lives alone round-the-clock care, because a lot of families do not have that type of money. You're talking about at least $25 an hour to start with for that type of service. And if we could get something done, because I don't want to have to stand and see somebody else's body carried out like that. I live alone as well. And it just do something to see people living alone with no one to help them. And also, once again, can you do something with the speed trap on LaRue? You just run, run, run all day long and all night long. And it needs to slow down so I can get in and out of my driveway, or other people can get in and out of the cars on the side of the street without almost getting hit. I shouldn't have to come here every city council meeting and ask you all to help me down there. And also implement something for these feral cats that's running all through the neighborhood. I looked out the other morning, one sitting on my porch out there on the table like he's waiting on breakfast. So if you all could get something so that somebody can get those things away. Because I don't do animals. I really don't. And I've got at least, the person that looked under, they say at least 20-something cats and kittens under my building. So if you all can help me, I would appreciate it wholeheartedly. And I thank you all for the time that you allow me to speak. Be blessed, all of you.
Thank you. Tom Mosley.
Sometimes when you fix the left side of a structure, the right side collapses. We have had a lot of improvement on the speed issue down Whole Street with the speed limit reduction of 15 miles an hour. But it's created its own problem because they're avoiding the area now and cutting down Berry, and they're barreling through there. Rose Hicks a couple weeks ago mentioned a four-way stop. Now, I agree with that partially. I think a stop sign at the bottom of Berry would be dangerous because of that incline. But I think a three-way stop through there might be an idea. So I know there's a couple there, but we need another. I would like to request that we make that a three-way stop and make Berry Street an additional 15-mile-per-hour area. Again, it's not a perfect fix. We still have speeders. But every step in the right direction will stop at least maybe one speeder. That's a chance to save a life. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose Hicks.
Hi. I'd like to address the same things again. The one-way streets, I don't think it's a good idea, and if you put the vote to the public, I don't feel that they would agree. And if you have money for the streets, any streets, fix what we have, please. The Berry Street, I would say four-way stop, because there already is a stop sign down at the bottom of Berry Street on both sides. And four-way stop, I think, would be a better idea. Three-way stop would be great too, any stops off of Hull Street. But as you come down the hill on Hull, it's terrible, and there's no stop sign there. And another thing too, one more time to reiterate, need left turn signals at Chase Bank, Citibank, excuse me, on South Canal Street, and turning into town at the, I think it's Exxon Station, across from South Oakwood Drive, that area. If you want to turn left and there's a lot of traffic, the easiest thing to do is to go down to, turn right on into CVS, come around to the Mavscott Road and come across the road, because there's no left turn signal and it's difficult. And nobody will let you across either. That's all. Thank you.
Ardra Brandon.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
3 minutes, Audra.
Oh, okay, I'll try, thank you. I work at, with the city of Beckley. I work at the Beckley Welcome Center, and I've got my coworkers here, Wendy and Vicky, who's a volunteer. I just like to, usually I give my report to the mayor, but this year I thought I would like to present it here and to the community. We completed 3 years successfully. When we started out, our hours were 11:30 to 2:30. We increased them now from 11:30 to 5, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, closed on Sundays and the holidays. You'll see the 5 bikes sitting out there. They're our most expensive or our top-of-the-line bikes. Just trying to keep it brief. We are 1 in 3 cities in West Virginia that has the bike shares here in Beckley and in Huntington and in Wheeling. And ours are free to ride. Others, it cost $1 to $2 per hour to ride. We had a very busy month. This past year in August, we had 119 tourists. You would be surprised at the traffic that we get coming in from tourists. I keep some of the stats there, and over the last 3 years, we have had people come from 29 of 50 states. That's 58%, 6 countries: England, Spain, South Korea, the Netherlands, Argentina, Cuba, and Brazil. And when we first opened up, we were really concerned about the miles, them riding, on the trail and so forth. Now, people are starting to come in. They're wanting to know mom and pop restaurants. They're wanting to know where the camping sites are, where the trails are. They're wanting to know about jobs, housing. So it's different things. So we're helping them. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Just trying to go real fast. Another thing that I've noticed since being there, more people are now starting to ride. More people are starting to walk. They're bringing their own bikes. We've got some avid riders there with their bikes. They're bringing their own bikes, and they're really, dressed up and ready to go. Our vision is that we want to have different types of bikes that where the family can ride with 4. We had one day where there was 8 in one family that came. We had a doggy daycare. They walk on the trail. So we're just using the community, and we're getting a lot of tourists coming in. And so I just wanted everybody to know that it is very successful there at the Welcome Center.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job, Arthur. Crystal Alonso.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For those that don't know me, I'm Crystal Alonso. I'm the Executive Director of the Raleigh County Community Action. And I wanted to come here this evening to notify the Mayor and Council that our our largest funder for the homeless shelter has cut our funding by $365,000. And that will definitely negatively impact our shelter operations. In order to continue running the shelter, we're currently run at a 90-bed shelter. We'll have to go down to 20 beds. So that means there could be 70 homeless individuals and families left out with those sheltered nights. And I would like to have a workshop with Beckley City Council and the Raleigh County Commission to kind of explore and come up with some ideas and see what we can do together. Currently, we have 71 individuals and families at the shelter, and this includes 11 kids. So I just wanted to let you guys know. Do you have any questions?
Why is your funding source changing so dramatically?
We honestly don't know, and when I called the funder, we have a meeting with her on Thursday.
Would you be able to get back together with us when you have some insights we can?
Absolutely.
And when did they say this would go into effect?
Well, our grant year is June the 30th, so it's the end of our grant year, so it'll start July 1st.
So you have funding up until July 1st?
Yeah.
And this is a DHHR.
Yeah, this is a DHHR.
I guess we can make some phone calls.
Well,
Yeah.
Personally phone.
and the person who previously asked questions, I mean, ultimately, the Department of Health and Human Services is now DHS, Department of Health Services. But Adult Protective Services, who Mary was referencing, should be able to step in and provide. There are folks that are whenever the DHHR intervenes, they take their custody and their conservatorship. They do guardianship, sheriff does conservatorship, and they do not have the resources to take care of the people that are already assigned to their care. And while legislators are in session, wouldn't it be great if instead of worrying about passing the Bible as the state book, maybe we got them to work about funding things that are important? So, I mean, this right now is when we all need to mobilize and make phone calls.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us this, but this is a short timetable.
If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yes.
Danielle Stewart.
Once again, so many things. First off, just want to reiterate what Crystal said. You know, this situation with the shelter is dire, and this is not something that we can just sit back and wait and see what happens. Really need active engagement from the city and the county and our state legislators to start tackling this now. You know, we already know how bad it is with the homeless problem we have now. What Crystal didn't mention is we're down to 71. Last week, we had the full 90. So, you know, imagine another 70 homeless individuals on the streets of Beckley. And that's what we're looking at. So, you know, I encourage you to help us take action with that and be partners with us in that so that we can prevent that from happening. Second thing is just a reminder to you all and to the public that March 4th is the deadline for your comments to the Department of Highways about the South Canal Street one-way. You can find information about that online. But if you have a comment about it and want people to know, please make sure that they make the comment by March 4th. Lastly, to kind of follow up on the seed sowers, just a reminder, you know, that we've had the Raleigh County Prevention Coalition operating in the county since 2018. Completely free to the city, providing these services, no staff, everything that we do by volunteers. We talk about the intervention. We have the QRT at FMRS, which is underfunded. You know, organizations that have been doing this for years that could also really use support because they, you know, RCCAA, we provide the same transportation as Seed Sowers mentions and have been doing it for years. We just has been talked about because it's just some part of what we do. So when you're all looking at funding decisions, especially with the opioid settlement money, I hope you will look really broad because there's a lot of organizations out here doing a lot of good work. We've been doing it without any support. Thank you.
Chris Kincaid.
Hello, I spoke briefly last week about a Housing First initiative. I think, you know, with the dire straits, we just heard about our homeless shelter. Most of you may know, some of you don't, but I work for the United Methodist Church. We are who runs the Emergency Warming Center. If our shelter were to close down, it would overburden us. And let me be clear, we already are serving up to 40 people when we're open. We will be open tomorrow night. So I just want to touch on that since we just got made aware of that. Also, resolution number 8 on the form, the $487,000 we're going to be using to tear down dilapidated buildings. I mentioned last time about a tiny housing project. Marshall just enacted one. So this isn't new to our area, you know, other people are doing it. But I did learn that the best way to go about what I was talking about was for you guys to create a public land trust. I also want to mention that I would like to see the city adopt the same guidelines as the county. The county allows for 400 square foot buildings, residences, homes to be built, as well as less square footage in between the homes. I would like to see the city have that same. I think they said 37 properties is what they're gonna be tearing down on. That's 37 less places to live for people in Beckley. So when we're talking about the homelessness problem, I think we need to keep in mind that there is a drastic lack of housing here in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony, do we have anybody signed up to speak on the phone or on their computer?
Yes, sir, we do.
All righty, I'll read the instructions. If calling in by phone, dial *3 to raise your hand, which in effect recognizes you to speak. If connected by computer, click the hand icon on your participants panel to be recognized to speak. So Anthony, do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, first person is going to be Michael Enrique Smith.
All righty. Michael? Lou? Michael
Yes,
Smith?
sir.
You have 3 minutes to state your case.
Of course I do. Thank you very much for taking my time. Anyway, people are tired of seeing signs that say homeless, need money, when we know they live in HUD-approved housing. People are tired of the dangers these people are at the intersections where they're interrupting traffic. They're also littering at those areas. They're leaving their cups behind. Now, the Cookout put a very nice sign up that said, "Don't feed their addictions." And I agree with that sign. And I suggest we continue to support not supporting their habits. Now, if they have a SUD, if they have a substance abuse, if they have a SUD, then pick them up. Send the seat sellers over there to talk to them. Because I know for a fact there are several who live in public housing or they're being subsidized in an apartment in the city. They walk from their home to that corner every day. Now, I heard that there was some kind of permit you're supposed to have to do any type of panhandling in the city or in the county. I don't know whether or not that's true, but if it's true, then we should be checking them. If it's not true, then maybe we should enact that. That's my thoughts on that. And as far as money, if we were to contact our legislators and push for the legalization of recreational marijuana, then we might have the money. Just a thought. How's my time?
Got a minute and a half.
You got a minute and a half, my friend.
Okay, what else can we talk about? I don't hate Louisiana, even though I'm a Texan. I actually lived in Louisiana for 3 years. And I was married to an alcoholic at the time, and so that helped because they have a daiquiri RS in Shreveport, and I would go there almost every day to keep her happy. So thank you, Louisiana, for that. And that's all I have to say.
Very good. Have a good evening. Anthony, do we have anybody else?
Yes, sir, we do. Again, he's called in by phone, so I do not have his name, but I will unmute him now.
Hello, do we have a call-in speaker? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Your name, please?
Yes, my name is Pat. I am a property owner in Beckley, West Virginia, and I listened to Mr. Phillips' presentation here, and I'm very uncomfortable with the organization. I have done quite a bit of research into this organization. There's many red flags that are waving to me. I've had contact with several of the residents, former employees of Fruits of Labor, and residents in the transitional housing. And basically what they are telling me is it is legalized slavery. They have a fear of retaliation. If they don't do exactly as what they call him Jay, not James, Jay says, they have fear. Some of them are on probation. Some of them are, I guess, on parole. Then they're scared to death of the retaliation and that they'll be sent back if they disagree with anything. There is no culinary certificate that has been given to these graduates. They do not get any garden experience as shown by Fruits of Labor. And it's not just Fruits of Labor, and it's not just the seed sower. It's their working together and the tangled web that they have between the two organizations. There is no garden experience that they've been given, and I went on the website, and if you go to Fruits of Labor and you go back in there and they say it's farm to table and they're learning in the farm, they're coming there, we need to look very carefully at their operating procedures. The people that come into the organization to work for Fruits of Labor have to sign a paper that they will not reveal that they are not allowed to accept tips. Their tips have to be turned over to the managers there. They never get those tips. They're handed them by the customers in good faith. They think that these young people or people that are working there are getting their tips, and they are not. Mr. Phillips is subletting the upstairs for RCO of Fruits of Labor. That really upsets me quite a bit. If he wants to be reciprocal with the community, I'm finding that the transparency just isn't there. I understand there may not even be a lease for Fruits of Labor. I don't know how much they charge for rent each month, but is that a liability for the city of Beckley that Fruits of Labor without a lease is subletting out part of their building? I don't know what the payment for rent is. I've just got a lot of red flags come up. I went back in, I looked into the corporations between Fruits of Labor. There's two different Fruits of Labor corporations, a foundation and Fruits of Labor LLC. You've got seedsower.org. There's just a lot. It seems
15
like that
seconds.
one hand watches the other.
15 seconds, Pat. You have 15 seconds to wrap it up.
I think that you've heard it from me now.
Very good, thank you.
I sure hope that you
Thank
do
you.
some research.
Anthony, you have anybody else signed up? Very good. You have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Stand adjourned, thank you.
I didn't get it.